All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast, episode 39. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I am here with Gabe and Scott Devore. That's right, folks. We have special guest Scott Devore.
Back. Got me back in the building.
Absolutely. We are, this is kind of like a different kind of week for us because we're doubling up on the podcast so that we have the following week off, celebrating the Christmas holiday. So this week I told the guys to come for Monday's podcast, but we are actually recording this on the following Wednesday, and we are getting it cracking just so we won't not release information. Does that even make sense?
Yes.
We're not
going to miss a week.
Yeah, we don't want to leave you guys hanging. So
double negatives all in effect.
Yes. And
we ain't not gonna
do that. All right. So what's happening is we are setting you guys up for success. We're setting ourselves up for success, and it's a lesson for all the future people who are doing podcasts out there. Double up 1 week, and you can have a week off, and you can celebrate and do your thing without any worries. So
and you teach consistency.
And I teach consistency and persistency, and that is a perfect example is episode number 39. You guys will remember that. It's titled Me and My Thoughts, and again, this is not something I came up with. I'll explain that a little bit later, but Me and My Thoughts. In this episode, we discuss me, Jimmylee, and my thoughts with an interview-like episode featuring Scott Devore as the interviewer. A bombardment of random critical thinking questions, an inside look on my overall thought process, and tips for everyone to become the best versions of themselves. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Jim Rohn and Henry Ford. All right, as usual, if you are new, don't forget to download and subscribe. Thank you for listening. We kick things off with a definition from dictionary.com, and today we will define motivation, which they define it as the act or an instance of motivating or providing with a reason to act in a certain way. And I'm so happy and thrilled that they use the term certain way, and I'll explain that a little bit later as we get into this interview. So as I kind of briefly explained, we wanted to do episode 40 actually with this type of information being released, but the way everything kind of panned out, the holiday season, we are adjusting our schedules, we're adjusting ourselves, and that's another lesson, another nugget. Be flexible with what life tosses at you, and just like go Gumby. With the flow. Like Gumby, he says.
You gotta be Gumby.
There you go.
You have to be Gumby in this crazy life of ours. But so Scott's just, it was actually a combination of, my thought and Scott's thought of coming up with, he's like, you know what, how about I interview you? Because there's a lot of stuff that I know about you that you're kind of holding back that, a lot of people don't know. And it'd kind of be a perfect time if you needed an episode where we wanted to do that. And that's what we're doing right now. Episode 39. The stars have aligned, and we have with us Scott Devore. Yeah, Scott, is there any, introductory words you would like to say? Gabe, Scott, any of you guys?
Well, it's just straight takeover. I don't know what you're in for. I appreciate the opportunity to come in here. Definitely want to do a Tim Ferriss style deconstruction of the main man, Jimmylee. Get into a little deep dive into the mindset. I feel like your fans really need to know the talent and the person you are. So excited about doing this, and can't wait to really pick your brain, man. Hope you're ready.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped right now. All right, Scott. So let's just jump right into this bad boy.
All right. So first things first, man. Jimmylee.
Yes, sir.
How'd you get named Jimmylee?
All right, so
and what's your real name is Jimmylee. People need to know that.
Yeah, this is true.
It's not a nickname. It is your real name.
My government is Jimmylee. And then, guys, that's not my middle. Lee is not my middle name. I don't have a middle name. My first name is Jimmylee. Jimmylee. My last name is Velez. Look me up. Jimmylee Velez. I got my name because, believe it or not, I am 100% Puerto Rican. And my mom named my brother Miguel, right? So I have two brothers, Miguel and Hector, which is hilarious. Miguel, Hector, and Jimmylee. So my mom named my brother Miguel after my dad. So my brother Miguel is the third. And my brother Hector after her dad. So he's Hector Louis Velez. And then for me...
So they ran out of names to name you after.
So they ran out of, like father figures. So obviously they only had two. And obviously my dad was named after his dad. So there was nowhere else to go there since my brother's the third, right?
Yeah.
So then, in all honesty, they actually thought I was going to be a girl. So they had planned girl names. So they had Leticia. I was going to be Leticia Velez, which sounds, it's very interesting. And what happened was I came out a boy. So they were shocked and they didn't have a name picked out for me. So my mom and, her mom are all getting together. She's like, we're about to leave the hospital. He's a healthy baby boy. I was a big baby too, boy. He's healthy. He's ready to go home. We don't even have a name for him. They just kept calling him baby boy Velez. And so my aunt, my mom's sister, who at the time was, I don't know, like 17. So she's like young still, right? So she's into the whole General Hospital thing. And she says there's a character on General Hospital named Jimmylee Holt. And she thought he was like the stud. He was like the hot guy or whatever back in the 80s. So literally my mom named me Jimmylee because they had no ideas. And actually, I think she wanted a more Americanized name. I don't even know, to be honest with you, because I was actually going to be named Carlos. So it'd have been Miguel, Hector, and Carlos, which is hilarious, or Miguel, Hector, and Leticia. But now it's Miguel, Hector, and Jimmylee. And if you look at pictures of me and my brothers, I look more Puerto Rican than they do. So it makes it even funnier. Like, God definitely has a sense of humor.
Oh, that's classic, man.
Yeah.
That's classic. So I appreciate that because I was always wondering, man. I mean, I knew your name was Jimmylee, but I've known you since like 2006.
Yeah.
8 years, 10 years now. Just never knew the story, man. So thanks for breaking out the name of this thing's called?
The origin.
But
The origin.
Yeah, the origin. Anyways, all right, moving along. Why don't you give us a brief bio and let us know, where does the journey start for you?
All right, so I would say I'm just going to start where, I'm not going to give you my life bio, but I'm going to give you where my personal development began. And it references back to 2006. I was introduced into the personal development industry. The second I got my hands on it, I took off. It went nuts. It was the same year the movie The Secret came out. And when I say I got introduced into the personal development industry, I was introduced to a home-based business, multi-level marketing type of business. And in that, part of the, program was an educational regimen that they had you go through on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to help grow the mind. And I owe it to, that initial program to jumpstart my personal development career really back in 2006, because prior to that, I was a reader. I was your occasional reader. I was really into biographies and poetry, believe it or not. So I did read. It wasn't like, it turned me into like a reader and all this other stuff, but I read more and then I changed what I was reading. So my mindset, if people knew me prior to 2006, I was very, I had a razor sharp tongue. I was very witty and not in the most positive way. I was, always busting people's chops. That we're ball breakers. That's what it was. I mean, where we came from, it was like, survival of the fittest kind of thing. You had to have the best jokes. You had to come at people. You had to crack heads. That's just the way we were. I wouldn't say 100% pessimist, but that's what, I had this negative kind of thinking, like, oh man, more geared towards negative than positive stuff that were coming out. But I was always motivated to become a millionaire. And I just didn't know how to gather my thoughts and make sense of them. And I guess that's what I can say the personal development industry did for me once I got into the right education, the right information. And the movie The Secret aided in that, which is actually very strange because today at random, I was just talking to Gabe. I was doing my Christmas shopping. I went to Barnes & Noble And I was picking up a few books for people, and I actually ended up buying the 10th year anniversary, The Secret.
Ah, nice.
Which is it's fascinating. Like, I didn't even know any of this was, going to be brought up until whatever. But it's very interesting. So that's where it all got started. Then it moved on to a variety, I would say a plethora of startups and, little entrepreneurial endeavors that didn't quite pan out, but left me with a broad range of experience, education, thought process that turned me into what I am today. And I give all credit to that. And I'll also get into later, if we have a chance to, as to why that's so important. And in episode 38, I actually do discuss that life happens for you, not to you. And it kind of prepped me into the person that I am today. And I am very, 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 very grateful for that. You can catch me on wisdomminers.com, jimmyleevelez.com. The Motivation Files was a book that I released last year. The CD is an audio file that has motivational talks and high energy beats in the background. That was all released last year, leading into the podcast that was started here in 2016. So you could see in my 10 years, a lot has changed, and it has been a crazy ride. Like I said, it happened for me. And if you could just imagine the Transformers, how they went, go from like regular, little cars and turned into big monsters and beasts. That's kind of how I think in that terms. I was just cruising before. Now I stood up and actually realized what I was. I wasn't, or if you could think of like a baby bird or something like that amongst a bunch of turkeys, and he realizes he's an eagle and he can actually fly. That's what personal development did for me.
Nice. Good stuff, man. Well, we're definitely going to deep dive into some of those projects. But before we do, let's back up a little bit. And where do you rep, man? I know you guys are in Philly, Pennsylvania. You mentioned, Bristol. Like, what's your city? Like, where do you call home for you?
I mean, overall, if someone were to ask me, I would say, I always say Philadelphia region, just because a lot of times people don't know what I'm talking about when I say Bristol, PA. But I rep Bristol through and through. That was where I was raised. So, I was born in Delaware County, but I was raised I came to Bristol. We were in Bristol Township when I was like 6 months old or something. We lived there for 2 years, and then we moved to the borough ever since, I believe, in 1987 or 88 or something like that. And I was there. We were there till 2004. And then we're off to, a town right next to Bristol. But Bristol's where my heart's at. For anyone who's local, I say Bristol Borough. Outside of that, I just say the Philadelphia region. I say small town north of Philadelphia. Yeah. So yeah, I rep Philly just so people can get a grasp. But then when I get into actual conversation with someone, it's really Bristol Borough.
Nice. So what does Bristol mean to you? Like, what's the significance of it personally?
Well, like I said, I mean, we're so deep. The town is so deep rooted. The heritage of what Bristol is. It's a small town of closely knitted people, hardworking little town where the values are driving this thriving little, this little powerful entity that we call home, and it molded us in so many different ways because it's almost represents what United States of America is. It's like this melting pot of people, background, the wealth that's there. It's all over the place, and it's like a little, like, what do you call that? Like a little snapshot, really, of what the United States is. To me, that's what I think of it. Is like it had everything. It prepped me for everything. We saw all scales of life, all levels of financial wealth, all levels of education, and everything came in, and it comes into this like little ball of a town. But then everyone gets along. We have such different backgrounds, but everyone understands each other. We almost like have our own little language, and it molds you. It molds you to be a strong, thriving individual that's able to really handle your own and survive in this crazy world. So I think of Bristol as just like this strong little town that can, stand up with the big guys.
Nice, no doubt. So let's get into your thought process a little bit. So you mentioned 2006 is when you broke into the personal development industry. What's something that you think differently now, 10 years after kind of breaking in? Like what's your thing that, 10 years ago when I guess you're in college back then, fast forward today, like what's one thing that you have different thoughts about than you did back then?
All right, so I'm just going to give, because there's a lot, but I'm just going to give you a basic example that can basically change your world and change your thinking in under 30 seconds. I went from knowing that I can be successful, but I thought it was going to be in the hands of somebody else, to then understanding and knowing for certain I was going to be successful, but it was in my control. It was under my control. So it went from, I knew that the possibilities were out there to be, a successful person and in whatever field that was going to be, to now knowing that I'm going to be that, but it's in my control. Because before I just thought, you go to school, study hard, land a job, and, retire at 65. I just thought that was the reason for me to go to college, and that's the reason why I wanted to have a good job. I wanted to make, a good amount of money and, figure it out from there. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a millionaire. So I didn't know how that was ever going to happen. I just knew that, some way maybe I'll just figure it out, to now knowing it always has been in the palm of my hand. The reason why I am where I am today is because of my thought process and really the support from everyone else. Whereas before I just thought I had to manhandle and do it all by myself. Right?
Yeah.
Like studying and going to school, that's all, you do that all by yourself. And then you get a college degree by yourself. Then you're in the interview by yourself. And then you get the job really by yourself, unless you got like some crazy hookup, which I didn't. I never did. And then you have to hold your own. I always thought that way. Just thought it was like the kind of linear, thought process as, you're taught, until, 10 years later down the road, it's almost like I'm laughing in a good way, because I realize this whole thing has been in the palm of my hands and is really up to me. And it's a very powerful thought if you really think about it.
Right. No doubt. So, it's obviously been a 10-year journey for you, and that's, definitely a paradigm shift. Was there like one book, one quote, one person that, kind of escalated or fast tracked that shift in your mindset?
Yeah. So when I got into the personal development industry, Napoleon Hill was really, his material was really the beginnings of that paradigm shift. Napoleon Hill went from Napoleon Hill to, because like I said, the Secret got released, but I was more like, when I was reading The Secret, I was like, yeah, but where did this person get their information from? You see what I'm saying? Where I end up finding out, the whole thing is, based off of, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So then I wanted to see where Napoleon Hill got his information from. And then boom, I believe I explained this in episode like 36 or something. But Napoleon Hill was hired by Andrew Carnegie, who was at one point the wealthiest man in the world. And a lot of his wealth came from the railroad and steel industry. But so he studied successful people for 20 years. So this is where his material is coming from. So it was like the original material. And also Wallace D. Wattles, who is the author of The Science of Getting Rich, which was also kind of like these two books that kind of interacted with each other because they're basically from the same time period. And the person that molded those two books together and really truly made sense of everything to me was a guy by the name of Bob Proctor. Bob Proctor wrote a book titled You Were Born Rich, which the book was great, but I think it was all the talks that Bob Proctor gave, all the seminars and things like that really kicked it off. And that is where the shift started happening. I started to get and understand Napoleon Hill's information. He wrote a book, The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. That's actually the original book to Think and Grow Rich. See, I kept digging and digging. I wanted to know. The Think and Grow Rich is just a very diluted version of the Law of Success in 16 Lessons, what happened was the wealthiest people of that era were scared because all the real secrets of how to attain wealth was released in the Law of Success in 16 Lessons. So they said, whoa, 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 whoa. This is selling way too much. You're giving away way too much. Dilute this. So now that's the reason why people read Think and Grow Rich and are still kind of basically clueless. And they keep saying doing things a certain way. That's why I kind of referenced that earlier when they dictionary.com defined motivation, and they said they use the phrase a certain way. Napoleon Hill talks about doing things in a certain way, but he doesn't really explain. He kind of like, goes around that whole thing. But you can find all your answers in The Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill. The Science of Getting Rich is an awful read, but the information that is being dropped is unbelievable. It's a dense read, I should say, not an awful read. It's a very dense, and it's a quick book. It's probably like 90 pages, if that. You can read it in one night.
Nice.
And then, like I was just telling Gabe, in 2010, another paradigm shift took place when Rhonda Byrne actually followed up The Secret with a book titled The Power. The Power, I just told Gabe, I read that book probably about 15 times, without exaggeration, and I'm probably under shooting that number. The Power by Rhonda Byrne changed everything for the next 5 years. It was like, boom, it catapulted me to a whole talk. That was like the definition of a mind shift. So in 2006, I had a mind shift with Napoleon Hill's information. And then the book, The Power, came out, and I combined that with Bob Proctor's information. And, you go way beyond, guys. I'm not just talking about books, one book and one. These are ones that had major influences on me, but when I'm just going to jump right into the people who actually influenced me in the personal development industry. YouTube was at the palm of my hands. You got to understand, YouTube was popping in 2006, 2007. That's when it all happened, right?
Yep.
That's so I just kept researching stuff, and boom, I find Bob Proctor, I find Jim Rohn, I find Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Wayne Dyer, Joe Osteen, Brian Tracy, Jack Canfield. I find all these guys that are just dropping nuggets, and people say all the time, the personal development stuff is a bunch of stuff that's reiterated in a different way. Well, exactly. That's the point. So is everything else in life. You're just given a different way to look at stuff. It's books are rewritten and written and rewritten, but it's giving you a different perspective. It's giving you kind of a different look, a different way to look at things pan out, right? So. Yep. That I demolished books. I was demolishing programs, seminars. I was going in and out of places. Oh my gosh, video after video. Man, I spent thousands of dollars. I am not ashamed to say this, tens of thousands of dollars in education in the personal development industry. And I know it's panning out and it'll pay off ultimately in the end. But I don't even look at that number because the value that I got out of a book is incredible. I took a picture, right? So I went to was it? I don't know. I went to these used bookstore where they just sell a bunch of used books, whatever. I don't know how they come about these books, whatever. They have all the sections separated into personal development. I don't care about new books. I don't care if it's a new or whatever book. I just want the book. I just want the material that's in the book. So I buy majority of my books are old books. Obviously, you have the occasional new book, like I just purchased the 10th anniversary edition of the Secret today. But I bought 15 books for $5. Okay, all in the personal development. What's it called? Hold on, let me get up for a sec. You see them?
See them?
These books, $5.
All those right there.
All these books.
What you got?
Inspiring Others to Win. Escape Management Land. Going Beyond a Positive Mental Attitude. How You Can Prosper in a Shattered Economy. Use Both Sides of Your Brain. A Course in Miracles in 5 minutes. Dude, it just keeps going on. $5. All right?
Nice.
I do this! That brings me to another topic, and if we get super random on this episode, bear with us, but it's going to get real random. Gabe always talks about all these other people had the same information I had my fingertips on, but I actually applied what I was reading. A lot of times people say oh, well, you just, you're reading books, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, but I'm actually reading the books. Yeah. I'm actually still 10 years later. I just bought 15 more books. That was a week and a half ago. Like, I don't stop. I just bought another book today and paid retail price because I know at the end of the day, it's all going to pan out and work for me. I'm going places. I'm here. I really do this. Like, I really study personal development industry. I really study the brain. I really study psychology. I really do this. I don't just mess around. I don't just preach. I don't just talk. I don't just like jump on the podcast and tell people a bunch of crap that sounds good and they want to do. I apply this stuff, man. I do this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, this isn't a game to me. This changed my life for the better. For real.
No doubt. Let me assign a label to you and tell me what you think. Artist. Is that a accurate label for you?
Artist?
Artist.
Yeah, I would say so. It's an interesting, you know what? Because what I like about it is the creative aspect of that word. It's almost, when I see artist, it's like an entrepreneur-like word because you can do with it whatever you want, right? A lot of times people say like art is whatever the hell you want to make it. That's what life is. Yeah. Life is whatever the world you want to make it, and you're the artist. It's your painting. What are you about to paint? What do you want to see? You're the sculptor, right?
The world is your canvas.
Yes, the world is your canvas. So I love that. I love the artist thing. I embrace that. I accept that.
Now, what did you mean when you said art saved you on a pretty recent one? Like, saved you from what? And how did it save you?
It saved it. Okay, so art saved me from pessimism because a lot of my stuff, a lot of like my thought process was coming from a negative, tone. And I don't know directly what that's from, but I had mentioned this before that I'm like I was a natural pessimist that converted right into like an optimist. Sometimes my wife, pokes fun and was like, all right, you're like, sometimes you're a little over the top, but, so art saved me because it was almost like my cooling down method of like, all right, relax. Like you're thinking way too much. So I am a critical thinker, which can be used in very positive ways, but it also can be used in very negative ways. And I was using it in negative ways, just like kind of just getting down in the dumps. And if it wasn't for art, when I'm like drawing or painting or doing stuff like that, or listening to music, which is an art form, I don't know where I would be, to be honest with you. That got me all through college. And then that's the reason. And then from art, really, I converted into studying the personal development industry because I started using my mind as a weapon for positivity instead of a weapon for destruction.
Yeah. So you mentioned doodling and drawing. Like, what art do you produce?
Yeah. So I have all kinds of stuff, but I like to just get like, and it sounds like weird, but just a blank sheet of paper. It could be, like your classic printer paper or whatever. I mean, I have like sketchbooks and stuff like that too, but I'm very random of when I get in the mood. So a lot of times in a lot of places, someone has printer paper. So I just grab that and start doodling on that. And I say doodling. A lot of times I draw like facial expressions, abstract stuff with a pen, pencil, whatever. But I keep them and I log them in and one day maybe I can give it to to one of my my sons, my kids, whatever, somebody wants it. He's like, whoa, it's almost like telling a story of kind of what I'm going. So you'll see like a face and it's like this big cheesy happy face, and the next day you'll see a face is like this kind of angry, like crying face or whatever. But yeah, I like drawing faces, but I do a lot of, I say doodling, but it's not like just drawing circles or whatever. I'm kind of like going through my thought process.
Smiley faces.
I just draw smiley faces and emojis. That's all I do. But we talked about earlier, like doing like little projects of like, like breaking down skids and making things out of them. But that's just one of the stuff. Like I just like arts and crafty stuff. Drawing with a pen though does something because when you draw with a pencil, you can erase the mistakes. But when you draw with a pen, you have to go with the error and then make it art in itself and make it okay. So that's kind of how life really is. It's we're going through this thing with a pen. We're not going through it with a pencil. So when I use a pen, it's just kind of like if I do mess up, it's like, it's okay. How can I make this even better than what I originally thought it was going to be? Hold on. All right, so here we go. Here's one of my binders.
Holy
Here's one of my binders of artwork.
Nice.
Hang on. Here goes like a face that I'm talking about. That I
Okay.
Pieces.
Oh, wow.
That's stuff from this year. I haven't even put it in a binder yet. But this is all stuff from like past years of just abstract, random pastels. Look, this one's from 2006. So I've been doing this. You get the point. So I just showed the guys some of my artwork. So when people ask, I just want to. So we're fully transparent. I'm not the dude that's gonna tell you I'm doing something and not doing it. I'm showing these guys proof after proof that this is I live this. I live what I preach. Right. A lot of times I listen back on the podcast and it sounds like I'm a damn preacher and it's kind of annoying and it's obnoxious to myself. But what I'm saying is real. It's true. I experienced it. That's the reason why I'm reiterating this stuff 95% of the time. Gabe knows. Gabe seen me in the last 10 years very like up close and in the middle of the mix when I'm having my ups and downs and how I overcame and how we actually conquered and why we are here today making this very podcast and Scott as well. So yeah, so there you have it. So my artwork is the real deal. I just showed you guys. It's one is even dated till 2006 and it goes beyond that. I have stuff from like 1990s, but that's like when I was a kid, so that's in other folders.
Yeah, there were some good pieces, man. Too bad the audience can't see them. So related to that, you're a tattoo guy, right?
Yes, sir.
So how many tattoos you have?
Well, I have a half a sleeve, so it's not a real number. It's a bunch. So I sat in through numerous tattoo sessions, endured a lot of pain for some artwork that I believe in.
Your designs, or were they others?
It's a combination. So I believe a true artist, if he's going to do his work on your body, it's a good idea to get his recommendations or his suggestions on the particular art piece that you want. A lot of times people want stuff on certain body parts that won't look right. And that's what they're there for. That's the reason why they're professionals. They can tell you, like, dude, you want this big Christmas tree on your forearm and it's not going to look right, or you want an elephant on your elbow and it's not going to look good. And they're there for that. So is a combination of, obviously I have a creative side of myself as my creation and bouncing ideas off them, and kind of we mesh our ideas together and come up with the pieces. So it's very meaningful to me, because if I get it tatted, like we always say, dude, if I get it tatted on myself, I mean, that's everything. Yeah. Not only do I believe in it, but the stuff that I got anyways, family stuff. So it's not like, I don't just yet have like sayings or anything. Well, actually I do. I have the one saying. It was from my dad my dad passed away from pancreatic cancer. And during the push, when we were trying to fight, the cancer or whatever, we came out with the slogan, I can, I will. So I have I can, I will tattooed on my arm. Right underneath, like the roses. I'm obsessed with roses. So I have like roses across my religious beliefs. I'm a Christian. I have birds. I have specific birds representing my mom. And then I have like a revolver on the inside of my arm. It represents my dad, because he was like our Puerto Rican cowboy. And nice. he had like, these revolvers all over the freaking place. It was awesome. And then on the other side of my arm, I have a tattoo, obviously from the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. We played like a funny creative idea off that. So we all have brotherly love. Me and my two brothers have brotherly love tatted on the inside of our arms, but on the bottom we have 3 stars, and each star signifies one of us. And so the first one, if it was Goose, the first one would be filled in, the other 2 are empty. Hex, the middle one's filled in, and myself, the last one's filled in. The first 2 are empty, representing each of us. So obviously it's all meaningful stuff. I'm not just getting a bunch of random stuff. And so it takes time. It took years to get a half sleeve, and I have ideas to keep going from here, but it has to be meaningful. I'm not just going to get random stuff, tattooed.
You're not going to get your ex-girlfriend from 5th grade tatted out? I mean,
nah, man, I'm good. Okay. Yeah, no, because it's art to me. And it's not just, a bunch of stuff just to look cool or whatever. Although it does look cool, I'm definitely going to have something permanent on me. It's going to be meaningful for sure.
Yeah. So Goose and Heck, So you're the baby, right?
Yeah.
What do they mean to you, and how they shaped you?
Well, I mean, they're my brothers, right? So obviously they mean, a lot to me. They mean the world to me. There's nothing like a brotherly bond that was held together, especially with our heritage in the Spanish background, where for us, family is everything. Like, you didn't do nothing. If your brother's in trouble, you were in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, if your brother's going to the corner store, you're going to the corner store. Like, we did everything together. So they're 4 and 5 years older than me. I'm the young bull, but as my son would say now. But I watched everything they did. So like, it was a weird trade-off. When we were growing up, I watched everything they did. They took me under the wing, even though half the time, they probably didn't want to, and my mom forced them to like take me to a ball game or something like that. But I watched everything they did. I watched how they talked to people, how they engaged in conversation, what they did, how they dressed, the jobs that they took, what they, the cars that they drove, everything. Like, everything led up into me being the person I was in my childhood. I mean, that they were the guys I looked up to. And then obviously, like, my dad was always my role model, no matter what. I mean, it was very strange. Like, a lot of times people say, "Oh, my dad was my role model," until like I was 18. I found like a baseball player or something like that I looked up to. Like, my dad was always my role model, like, through and through. But my brothers, they were kids as well, so they understood who I was and what I wanted to do, and in this era. And then we all grew up, right? Out of Bristol, we all grew up. We all bought houses in the same town. We all have, kids that are growing up together. So it's like we see it all happening over, and the cycle begins, or continues, I should say. So we still are very close knit. Obviously, we do the podcast together. We all live within 5 miles of each other, which is very nice. And we're there to help each other and support each other. And everything that I ever did was totally different than my brother. So here's the thing. It's not like I literally did everything they did and mimicked them. When I was a kid, I did. But once I became an adult, I did everything opposite they did. And what was nice about them being older, I could see what worked and what didn't work. So I made decisions based on all that stuff. But they supported me. They already knew I was going to do different stuff. And they supported everything I did, no matter how wild and crazy my ideas were. There's like, yeah, man, whatever. If that's what you want to do, let's do it. And vice versa. I mean, I supported them in their crazy ideas, but that's what brothers are for. And we stood there by each other. We support each other. We love each other. That's what it's all about. I mean, it's an amazing bond.
Yeah, good stuff. So you're married. How many years now?
Yeah, so 4 years. We
4
met.
years.
Yeah. We met back in 2008. We got married in 2012, and here we are with a beautiful 2-year-old son who will be 3 here in January. Married 4 years, and we're doing our thing.
So she married an entrepreneur. You already talked about 20 plus ventures that you got into. So obviously she's supportive of you. Like, what does that mean to you?
It's amazing. It's hard to put into words, because it's when you get assigned your family members at birth, they're kind of just there always with you, right? But then when you get to pick your best friend, and then they're still there with you, it's a totally different level of love, I guess you can say.
Yep.
It's interesting. It's fun. It energizes me, because it's a different kind of belief. Like, your brothers are there, and your parents are there, or whatever families, in your life that's supportive, they're there, and hopefully you're there for them. Not that it's kind of expected, but but I'm still grateful for it. But then when you get to pick your best friend to spend the rest of your life with, it's totally different. Like, she's experienced my highest of highs and my lowest of lows. Some stuff, I don't think she was too excited about. Some stuff that I still do, I don't think she's that crazy about, but she still supports it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, is that she's still there, and she knows I'm going to come up with some crazy idea. But here's the thing. It's not just supporting someone who's always doing the next crazy thing. I have gotten stuff done. I have gotten results. I made sure things happened. I brought home the paper, so to speak. So I'm not just one of these guys who just keeps coming up with all this random stuff, and then he's like, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change the world, blah, blah, blah. And for, 8+ years, just still, living in my mom's basement and not making it happen, I was a man about it at the same time. Although I sacrificed a lot of stuff and am not nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm truly grateful for how far I've come and where I am now. And I could see and I could hear the appreciation, and that's all said through action of, her support.
Yeah, good stuff. So you mentioned you're a Christian. What's your how's your faith played into what you do?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. I'm a firm believer that Jesus Christ came to this world, died for my sins, and led a life that was an example of what I should live mine. And He is the way. Through Him, you'll find God, and in a very deep understanding is what I'm saying. And so with that, everything I do is through my religious thought process, because I believe I am being guided. I truly do, and I find the guidance through prayer. I find the guidance through special conversations that I have with specific people and mentors and figures in my life that have an ability to break things down to, for them to make sense. And it all boils down to my beliefs, because I do feel like I have an anointing. I do feel like I am blessed. I honestly do feel like I have a calling, and all that is derived from my God. And so I wake up every morning. I pray. I go to bed and I pray. I visualize. I talk to God every chance I get. I'm constantly talking underneath my breath. But it's me having conversations all throughout the entire day. Please be with me. Please protect me. Guide me. Show me the way. Please allow me to have the right words to say in specific conversations. Protect me. Just constantly talking. And then I don't understand how I would have gotten through life any other way.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely the prayer life is important. I mean, what scriptures kind of guide you? Is there any that, just are always top of mind that you always come to when you need it?
Yes. And the reason why I feel so strong is because Jehovah Jireh, right? The Lord, my provider. I every time I fell to my, life knocked me to my knees, and I felt that I'm like, me as the physical man can't go any further. I have to not only just get through this emotionally, but my spiritual walk has to be in check. My spiritual strength has to be there. That's the only way I'm able to drag myself through some of the mess that life throws your way. And I constantly reminded myself, and me being in the personal development industry, I just have this, belief that if I pray for something and ask for it and then have the faith that it's going to happen because of, my provider, and then my action put together, it will happen. So the verse that sticks with me is Matthew 21:22, and it states, "You can pray for anything, and if you have faith, you will receive it." It's like the original law of attraction, literally. Yeah. And I always go back to that. I know, right? So God's my provider, and I believe that He's in control of the entire universe, right? So if that's the case, no problem that I'm having as this 6'3" guy that's having in this little world, in this little town, that my Father God can't handle, who's in control of the entire universe. So it's kind of funny when you put it in perspective, and the guys here see that I have space as my background. That's literally the reason why I have that, is to put my life and my problems into perspective. I don't know if I ever explained that to you guys, but I have space on all my monitors, and it always I don't know anything about NASA or any of scientific stuff like that, but that's the reason why I have the space backgrounds, is to humble yourself and realize you're not as big and your problems aren't as big as you think they are.
Yep, no doubt. All right, let's get back into personal development. So you mentioned the motivation files and you mentioned wisdom miners. How did both of these projects kind of get started? Where are they at, and kind of what's kind of next with those?
So Wisdom Miners was one of the first ones. That was like a couple years back. That was my blog, really. So this is how me and Gabe talk about this all the time, is I felt like I had all this information that I was studying and I was applying and I was getting results that I felt like the need to share them. I wasn't necessarily saying that I was being a teacher, but I went to share what I was learning. So then that's when I opened up, wisdomminers.com, which was a blog that I was blogging on daily to produce material that hopefully was going to help someone, in their issues or whatever they were going through in life, and, help them, improve whatever that was. Fast forward a couple years, and so Wisdom Miners is still up, but it's basically, it gets fed into what gets, written on wisdomminers.com gets fed into Jimmylee.velez.com. So now the websites are just, one and the same. But I moved to there for branding reasons, right? Obviously, the title of the website's my entire name, Jimmylee.velez.com. So when I was coming out with the products of the book and the motivational album, that was the reason why that shift took place. And they're still thriving. So now I blog once a month because I took on the podcast. And the podcast is a different, medium that I'm using that I feel at the moment is more effective than the blog is. Just because it's weird. It's almost like a text message. We talk about this all the time. You can read a text message one way and get offended, and the person who sent it was supposed to make you laugh, right? So sometimes blogs work that way when you're reading in general. Sometimes you're not understanding, and then when you get like a book on tape, right, like the audio version of a book, and the person's so passionate in what they're saying, like, man, I wasn't reading it like that. Maybe I just totally misinterpreted. So the podcast allows me to do that. It allows my listeners to get my actual emotion of what I'm saying, because sometimes you're not understanding the power of words. People they misread stuff, and then they don't even understand the power of what's actually even being said.
And they're not projecting their own emotions on what you're saying.
Exactly. So I'm a high energy kind of person. So when I'm talking to people, 95% of the time, the person kind of like, their posture changes, they have a smile, or they get energized, whatever it is. I wanted to convey that more because I felt like I was not impacting as much as I could. And just bringing that back from the religious stuff, I felt like I'm given gifts, right? We're given all talents, gifts, abilities at birth that we need to sharpen. It's our gift back to God, so to speak, as to what we're doing with what we're given. I don't want to give him back my basic ability. I want to give him back what he's given me tenfold. So I'm constantly improving on what was given to me. My thought process is different now than what it was because of all the material that I'm reading. And I feel like, the law of attraction has been working in that sense where I'm getting more and more material and I'm getting the right material. I'm reading the right books. I kind of even talk to myself saying, what do you want to read today? Or what should I read today? And it's me really talking to God saying, guide me, guide me, guide me. And so the transition from the blog to the podcast was one of those kind of things where it was almost like a stepping stone. You could actually kind of see my growth. And a lot of the material I am saying on the podcast was stuff I already had said, but now you're getting the passion. Now you're getting the emotion behind the words. And here we are coming up. Here we are, episode 39, which is almost a year old. Almost. We have some time. Almost a year old. So 6 months. Of my walk, basically my personal development walk with the expansion of the Rotated Views crew. So everything's still going. I just feel like now we're at a bigger level and more powerful.
So what's your vision for the Rotated Views? Like what are you trying to accomplish, and kind of what's the goals coming up for 2017?
So just to go back a little bit, the whole goal of Wisdom Miners was to get all the information, that I was studying, getting it out there and, putting my spin on it. And then Jimmylee.velez.com turned into helping other people in a more structured way, how to become the best that they can be in this day and age, because some of these books are from like the 1900s, 1800s, early 1920s, whatever. And so when I came out with the motivation files, it was to help people, the slogan is to help you become the best version of yourself, motivating you to become the best version of yourself. So that's basically what the podcast adopted when it comes to mindset, right? So it's called the Rotated Views, Life from Various Perspectives. But the mindset is coming from the personal development industry, helping other people to become the best versions of themselves through this medium. And it's just getting better. And that's what we see. That's what we want. That was what the vision was. That's what it still is. And for 2017, we're just looking to get bigger and bigger and better with the platform that we have, having more guests on, having more powerful messages being released, honestly, we want to be the best. So, I mean, that's where it boils down to. We were blessed enough to be ranked throughout the entire year of 2016. Our podcast was ranked. We reached top 100. Overall, I think we got as high as was it like 30 or something? 30 something overall. Wow. Out of whatever it is, hundreds of thousands of podcasts. I mean, look that statistic up. And then we got as high as like 11 or 12 or something like that in our category. Yeah. Our lifestyle category or whatever it is. Society and culture.
That's it. Yeah.
And so we're looking to stay up there. We're looking for sponsorships, bigger sponsorships that are going to help us, get this message out on a much broader scale. We have a couple other little projects that I haven't yet released, but I've talked to, amongst the guys about here and there. But 2017 is looking bigger and better, man. That's every single year. I talk about this all the time. Every single year, I want to take on something new. I want to become bigger. I want to become better. I want to improve. I don't want to be doing the same stuff that I was doing last year, because all that stagnation stinks. It smells. You want to keep the waters moving. You want to turn into a beautiful, clear. Think about when you're on an island, right? On this beautiful island with this crystal blue water. You can see your toes. You see all these little fishies swimming all through. That's where you want to be. That's beautiful. That's growing. That's life in itself, right? And you don't want to be a swamp. So if you're a swamp, stay away from me. I want that clear water, that beautiful Caribbean feel. I want the little bongos playing in the background as I navigate through 2017, drinking some coquito, drinking, yeah, you get the idea.
Yeah, nice. So you got a very structured process, and I guess with that, you mentioned planning as one of your strengths. So if I'm getting into Jimmylee's toolbox, kind of talk about how your planning process kind of works. What does it look like?
First of all, get out of my toolbox.
There's some good stuff in there, man.
So this is what it is, man. As much as I talk about, the material from like The Secret, they're like ask, believe, receive. That's like their 3-step process, right? Well, mine goes a little bit deeper and a little bit more detail, but it's only 5. So I have dream, ask, believe, act, achieve. That's my step. Those are my steps. And it might sound crazy, but I use that every single day. No matter what, if I'm planning my week in an educational sense, if I'm planning my week for, taking my son to like soccer practice or whatever he has going on, or, having a, dinner with my wife, whatever it is, it always goes to that. So you dream, you think about it, you're dreaming it up. Like, what do I want to accomplish? What is it? Then you ask about it, whatever your beliefs are, the universe, for me, it's God. Ask, like, is this right for me? Just making sure I'm going in the right direction. Then I believe. So I inject the entire process with, faith. So I believe it's going to happen. And then I act. I take action on what I wrote down, what it is that I need to do. Even if sometimes the action is, I don't even know what direction I'm going in. I just have to you have to take a step forward in whatever it is. Act and then achieve. Then you achieve the result. It would come in. So whatever you put out there will come back. So that's my 5-step process. No matter what I do, I don't even know if I ever said the 5-step process before. That's been in books. I can pull out a book back there that has been out since before 2010. And it's, somewhere around there, around 2010, between 2010 and 2012. I can guarantee, I can see the book right here. It's sitting on my shelf where I wanted to come out. My initial idea for my first book I ever wanted to write was that process where The Secret, quote unquote, got it wrong. I wanted to give you a 5-step process because I felt like they left some stuff out. And that's the reason why it came out that book. But the book never came out. I never wrote the book, but I have like a bunch of like brainstorming ideas webbed together. But that's what that's where I credit all my my success from.
Nice. So would you call that your success formula?
Yeah, so that's all day. That is my success formula. Because when you're asking the part, when people was like, well, where was the, the religious part? When you're asking, that's prayer. Because sometimes we're asking for stuff that we have no idea is bad for us. We don't know that though. And I put out a quote, and I said it in, episode 38, but the quote went something like, I explained what the quote was. So sometimes doors are being closed and open, but it's all for us, right? So I had mentioned earlier that life happens for us. So sometimes we're asking for something and God's closing a door and we're like, well, I asked so much. The law of attraction doesn't work. Yeah. And that's the reason why I tell people all the time, don't get stuck on that. Okay. Sometimes God needs to intervene and it's still happening for a reason. People need to understand that life happens for a reason. People get so obsessed with the law of attraction and The Secret and stuff like that, that's what made it unbelievable. That's why people weren't manifesting the lives that they thought they were going to manifest based off the material that was given in the movie The Secret. So they had this fallacy that this X, Y, and Z was going to happen, and it was based off this fallacy. It was a misguided formula, but it wasn't done on purpose because the general sense is there. Yes. And it is, but people took some of the stuff literally and just literally sat in rooms and was just, meditating for hours, day in and day out, and nothing was happening. Well, that's because the word action was left out. And that's the reason why I have it in my formula. Act. You have to take action. And sometimes when you're in prayer, when you're in prayer, you're going to get a different answer that you don't want. And like I said before, sometimes doors are opening and closing. You don't even realize that's an opportunity. And sometimes we don't see it coming because it comes wrapped in something we didn't expect it to be wrapped in. Yeah. And we had no idea. A perfect example is like the night out, when I met my wife. That was supposed to be a guy's night out. Me and my cousin Manny, we went to one place and it was like a themed night. So we weren't even basically allowed to go in. So we left there. We're going home, missed our exit, ended up at the spot where I met my wife at. Right. So if I was like one of those people dissecting what happened and trying to like constantly plan, I said this earlier, you have to be flexible with life. We're always going to make sense. Mark Zuckerberg had an interview and he was talking about understand that you're going to mess up. Understand that we're all going to make mistakes. Stop trying to go through life so perfect. It's not going to work. It's guaranteed that you're going to screw up somewhere. So be able to take those mistakes and then kind of roll with them and then always laugh at yourself. But yeah, I would say that's my quote unquote success formula. But, and like I said, if I were to write a book on that, obviously I would be able to elaborate on each one so it made a little bit more sense.
Yeah. Good stuff. So, you already mentioned a ton of books, The Power, The Secret, The Law of Success, and 16 Lessons. Any other books that are like your top ones that kind of influence you the most or help shape you?
I mean, aside from the Bible, those are it, man. The Power, I just told Gabe, like I said, or I did say this earlier, but I literally read that book 15 times. And I know people's like, oh, I read a book thousands of times. I'm talking about literally read a book 15 times. That's not a fluff, number or whatever. Yeah, The Power. She has a book called The Magic and The Secret. I'm telling you, it sounds cheesy and it's very mainstream, some of the stuff that's being said. But if people can just get their hands on those basic books, I promise you, your thought process is going to change. If you actually apply let me put it this way. It's a good introduction into how personal development and, law of attraction, all that stuff actually works. Because then you could look at my bookshelf and there's a ton of other books. Now, each of those books represents something specifically, right? So it represents, like one's could be about your finances. The other one could be about spirituality. One could be just straight up education. one could be about relationships and falling in love. And I have a book there, the 5 love languages. I have a book titled Falling in Love. I have a book there on fatherhood and how to raise a boy. I have a book, so my books vary. There's a book there on meditation. I'm just looking at my bookshelf. Tap Dancing into Work. That's Warren Buffett. Holy smoke.
Oh, okay.
I have Wealth 101. I have Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I have a bunch of stuff on behind me. It's a bunch of John Maxwell stuff. So it varies, but if you want the basic intro, that's great. And then on each subject, look up other books that you can go dive deeper in, so you can strengthen your thought process in each of those individual topics.
Yeah, nice. So some terms that are real common in this personal development industry: masterminds, motivation, coaching. What do those mean to you?
Wow. Everything. So all right, so we'll start with masterminding. So masterminding is very important because it's the opportunity for you to bounce ideas with another individual or individuals. So things start getting moving, right? As the old Bible, verses, when two minds are, praying for one thing, things start moving, things start happening, right? That's how a mastermind works, because it creates it creates what they call like the third brain. So you just think of it, if it's just two people. So if it's me and Scott, or me and Gabe, or me, Scott, and Gabe talking, that's considered one brain. Or each individual is considered one brain. And then when our thoughts, because you're going to have to like look up and read what the law of attraction is, and you're going to start getting into stuff like frequencies and all this other crap. But our frequencies, our thought processes create a frequency. So it's a level, it's literally like a tone. And so when those frequencies collide, which is when they call it brainstorming, right? They collide in the center. It's an actual energy. It creates another mind. It literally creates what they call a third mind. And our ideas, bouncing our ideas off each other. That's why like when you talk it out with someone, it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a good idea. None of you guys had the original idea, but when you guys talked it out, an idea popped out of that, manifested out of that. So that's the importance of a mastermind, because you're working with the unknown. You're working with, frequencies that can't be there. You can't bounce that frequency off a room if you're there by yourself. So masterminds are huge. Me and Scott have a mastermind. Me and Gabe have our own little mastermind, and then me and my brothers have a mastermind. And obviously when we get together for the podcast, it's basically another mastermind. We're bouncing ideas off of each other and things like that. Coaching is cool because I'm just going to give you the basic generic version that, a lot of people talk about. It's like a GPS system. It's there to guide you along the way. You may take a wrong turn, and then it'll just be like recalculating, boom, 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 and it kind of get you in the right direction. That's the importance of mentoring, which is also the importance of masterminding, because you get to bounce ideas off people who maybe have been there or have a brighter idea in a certain area than you do. Yeah, and mentorship to me is on a more serious level. Mentorship is getting someone who did something you want to do in a specific area. That's what mentorship is to me. So you can have mentors in all kinds of subjects. So Scott, you had talked about you had like a religious mentor, and then you had like a mentor when it came to business. And then at one point that guy was the same person, right? He had his walk, his walk with God was, you looked up to as well, his business path you looked up to. So it doesn't have to be like 600 different people. It could be one person, but that's what a mentorship, that's where the difference becomes, between coaching and the masterminding and mentorship. So the mentor is someone who has something that you want, who's done something you want to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to promote this for you, but I see some Jimmylee coaching coming up. Is that something you've been thinking about? Because, man, there's so much knowledge there that you could definitely help a lot of people with.
Absolutely. It's funny, last year when I released the motivation files, I was on a couple radio shows, and it kept coming up. They're saying, it's like, wow, what you just said in like 5 minutes just solve the problem, that personal problem that I have at home or something like that. You know, do you offer coaching? And I remember my answer was blunt. It's like, no, not at the moment. I'm focusing on the release of this album. Meanwhile, now I think about it, I was like, maybe I should have embraced, that. But I to be honest with you, I overworked myself and I kind of burned myself out. And all I kept saying was like another thing to take on. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I can do that. But now being able to even, manage myself and my time in a much more efficient and effective way, that yes, I see, coaching and mentoring on a higher level, much more in the near future. Because I do some of it now, but it's more of like personal thing with like people I know and I'm, have tight relationships with. But yeah, for sure, because I have been getting like fantastic feedback from when I do those sessions. So look out for that, folks.
No doubt. So as we wrap up kind of personal development, any things we didn't discuss about personal development that, you need to get out there?
Yeah. The last thing I would say is, and I don't know if Scott, you're going to get into this, but is the definition of success. I just wanted to just say this because a lot of times people get caught up on one subject and think that is success overall, when it's not. That's just success in that specific thing. For example, they see somebody who's financially successful and they categorize them as a successful person, when we should really be categorizing that person as he's very successful in his finances, because that person could be an awful mate, right? Or it can be a very abusive person when they go home. You know what I'm saying? So we got to stop worshiping what we see on the surface and stop being so shallow in the judgment, and understand that what people give out and the perception is just that, and how you take it in, your perspective is just that. And as you get older and as you grow and as you study yourself, know thyself, keep reading, keep developing your mind, you start picking up and seeing things that other people aren't seeing. And you stop putting the man on such a pedestal and actually start putting God at a higher pedestal, because you start to realize like, whoa, no wonder there's this big difference. No wonder he's so powerful, because you start realizing the error in man. You start realizing the mistakes that we make on a daily basis, and we're not perfect. So when someone says, oh, that's successful, just redefine what success is in your mind. And my kind of definition, because I kind of actually don't like defining this, but it's persistently and consistently pursuing becoming the best version of yourself in the areas of education, finances, relationships, spirituality, mentality, and physically. So as you can see, it's in all those different areas. It's not, and it's becoming the best version of yourself. It's not being the best overall. So it's every day, it's a growing thing. Success, I heard success is having a problem in the beginning of week, and at the end of the week, that problem was solved. That's success, right? Where people just keep going back to this monetary thing. And I don't know if it's because we live in the United States of America, but it's always monetary for people, but it shouldn't be. That's one part of it. And I hope everyone, becomes financially independent and can be prosperous in that manner. But you got to understand, you need to be prosperous in your spiritual walk. You need to be prosperous physically. You got to take care of your body. That's the only way we're going to be walking around this beautiful earth of ours, if we take care of our body and stop feeding it with the junk. Just like you feed your body with junk and you could see who's feeding their body with the junk. It's physically visible, right? That's the same way your mind works. Just we can't see it. Your mind looks like this big out of shape monsoon of a person, but we just can't see it. But we can hear it by the way you're talking. We can see it in what you have manifested in the world, really. And then when you talk, it's ugly. So don't get caught up on the physical stuff just because, oh man, look, he's physically fit. That's fantastic. But listen to the way this dude talks, and it's a freaking curse word. Every time a sentence comes out of his mouth, he's bad mouthing his wife. He beats his kids upside the head every time they talk. and it's all this other stuff, and we start worshiping what we physically see. That's the reason why people get obsessed with the money thing, because you can physically see, wow, he has his bomb house, he has a beautiful car, he got it going on, right? He's the man. Oh, physically, oh, look at him, he's in shape, he knows how to control life. No, man, that dude could have an awful spiritual walk and is corrupted inside and is dying inside mentally, and is probably might be a very depressed person. You just don't know, because here we go with the, the outward judgments. So my whole thing with the definition is developing all these areas. And no, it's not going to be this beautiful, perfect thing that you're developing each one of those areas all simultaneously. You just got to find, what you need to work on. Just work on it one day at a time. That's why I say persistently and consistently.
Nice. So 2-part question. So why do you do what you do, and any regrets in life so far?
So I do what I do because I kind of mentioned this earlier. I felt like, God blessed me with certain talents, and I feel like one of them is kind of like a critical thinker that can actually explain what he's thinking. And I feel like the more I develop it, that's kind of my gift back. And I truly do want to help people become the best versions of themselves. I really do feel like that's us. We need to constantly evolve. We need to keep growing. So that's just my mission, to help people become the best versions of themselves. I have a passion for that. I obviously have a passion for the personal development industry. Man, there was this thing I heard Les Brown say. He was talking about, our dreams. And he said, how sad would it be if you're sitting at your deathbed and all your dreams took human form? And they come up to you and is like, you never gave birth to me. I came to you. Out of all the people in the world, I came to you to manifest myself, and you never brought me into fruition. You're going to have a bunch of mad, angry, manifested people formed of your dreams, the form of people at your deathbed, angry and pissed off at you. They picked you. So when you have a dream, it's not, and you want to manifest it, it picked you. Understand that it chose you to manifest. You're not just having dreams just to have dreams like, oh yeah, one day that'd be nice. Yeah, that's cool. I want people to actually manifest their dreams and make that a reality in their life. I'm very passionate about that. Like when I hear someone say they want to do something, I want to follow up with them. I want to know that they're actually doing it, because that dream chose them, and I don't want to have that. I don't want them to have those regrets. And I don't have any regrets. I can honestly say I do not have any regrets, because it goes back to my initial message saying that life happens for me. How can I regret something? If I'm under the belief that things happen for a reason, what in the world am I regretting? Obviously, all my mistakes and all that stuff, I had to convert them into lessons. If everything happens for a reason, why do you have regrets? That if you're under that belief, if everything happens for a reason, and then you walk around regretting everything that you're doing back in the past and back in the 80s, that makes no sense. That you don't actually believe that. I actually believe that. And I actually believe that things happen for a reason, and they happen for us. And the reason why they happen for us, and I talked to this in episode 38, saying if you keep running into the same problem over and over and over again, you're not learning. It's because you haven't applied the lesson. Understand that these things are happening to you because it's your own fault, right? You can't be having the same, you can't be living paycheck to paycheck, right? And that's your complaint. Nothing wrong with that. That's your complaint for 5 years in a row, and you're still mad about it. That's life. You're just getting your receipt back. No, this is what you get. It's just a reflection back on what you're doing. This is feedback. Why would I regret feedback? Is making me grow, is helping me, is I'm becoming a better version of myself, as I constantly talk about. So yeah, I have no regrets. I'm thankful for the lessons. Some of them are painful to think about. Yes. Some of them are definitely not easy, tough to swallow, but that's who made those instances made the person that I am, the man that I am today, the strong warrior, brave heart, Iron Man 300 coming at your grill type of man I am today.
Awesome. So changing gears a little bit as we get close to wrapping up, any shout outs you want to make to people who you don't normally get to thank, when you do your shows, any requests for your audience, and any ask for your audience? Any
asks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the shout outs, I want to keep it simple. First one is Team VC. Is my family. We call ourselves Team VC. It's Team Velez Cuevas. That's my My mom's maiden name. No, anyway, I just want to give a shout out to Team VC because we're always doing, we're a tight-knit family. We're always doing fun things together, supportive in every way for every endeavor. They constantly supported me throughout this, this crazy adventure that I'm going through here. They supported my brother going through his crazy adventure with the barbershop. We supported them in everything that they wanted to do. We were a bunch of go-getters, dream chasers, and I love you guys. But the three beautiful women in my life is my mother-in-law, who accepted me and took me in as one of her own. I wanted to just tell her that I appreciate you, I love you, thank you, and also for supporting me and my crazy-ass ideas. To her daughter, my wife, Kel, I love you, thank you, again, for I don't know how you do it, but putting up with, again, my crazy ideas, my high energy. I'm up at 4:15 in the morning, scooting around, booting around, heading out to the gym, laughing, just high energy person. It's not the easiest to deal with, especially people know entrepreneurs constantly have ideas and blurting them out and just always wanting to get, oh, what do you think about this? Oh my gosh, yo, what if we did that, blah, blah, blah. So it's hard, but I just want to say thank you. I love you. You supported me in basically everything with question on some of this stuff, but you still supported it, even though if you had in doubt. And she's actually taught me, number one was patience, and actually helped me grow my risk meter, where my risk meter before was broken, and now I'm very cautious. Not fully because of it's a combination of her thought process, us having certain conversations, and my experiences. My risk meter being broken, and it gets fixed real quick when you lose financially or in other areas of life. And then finally, my mom, who's the reason why I dream. She literally told me I can be whatever I want. Like, I know that sounds so corny and cheesy, but when I was a kid, like a little boy, like 4 years old, she told me I can be whatever I wanted to be. And she believed it. Like, she didn't just say it, like she actually believed it. And with such conviction that I have now, the way I talk, the way I walk, is with the conviction my mom had. And my dad, may your soul rest in peace, he gave me, both of them actually, the work ethic and the motivation, something to follow. They led such a great example. That it's almost like unbelievable thinking, like, at my age now, how old they were when we were growing up. I'm like, whoa, so much that you did, so much in such much tougher times. I just want to say thank you to them. So I don't normally get to say that. I know on previous, you guys heard a lot about my father and stuff like that, and very briefly about my mom, but I never had, given the opportunity to say thank you or to my mother-in-law and my wife. So the three beautiful women in my life, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Pops, I love you.
Awesome. Any requests or ask for your audience?
No, man. You know what, man? If you have something that you want, maybe to be coached in, or somebody who can, benefit from coaching, contact me, info@jimmyleevelez.com. We can talk it through. I may be the guy for it. I may not be the guy. If I'm not the guy for it, I can direct you in the right direction, or I can point you in the right direction, I should say. And I kind of want to take that on as one of my goals in 2017, maybe kind of having like a few sessions a week or something like that, or maybe a month. I don't know how that would all work out, but we'll have a mastermind about it to see how, I can develop a program or something like that for, coaching people or mentoring people through a variety of subjects. But like I said, I'm not going to take on anything that I'm ignorant in. I'll be the first one to tell you, no, I don't know anything about that. But at the same time, I will help you still in a way that, pointing you in another direction. But yeah, that's actually one of my things. So if you think that that's a good idea, or you already have, something you need help with, email me again at info@jimmyleevelez.com, and maybe we could start. You could be one of my first clients. So let's do it.
Good stuff. So I want to tell you this, one of the things that I admire about you.
Okay.
Kind of seeing your growth over the past 10 years, I respect you a lot as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a business leader, as a brother in Christ, man. So you're doing some good stuff. Any parting advice or wisdom as we wrap up here?
Yeah, man. My thing is, believe in yourself and understand. Go back to that childlike dream mindset that you had and believe that it can actually happen. And don't go to the grave if you have any ability to do so without at least trying to manifest those dreams. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a persistent and consistent thing. There's going to be work involved, but understand that it's possible and just believe that it can happen. You know, if you do things in a certain way, get your education game up. I want to surround myself with a bunch of knowledgeable people. So study up, have intellectual conversations, and not just about sports and not just about, you know, very shallow topics. Let's talk deep. Let's have real conversations with one another. Let's actually try to grow as a human race and stop, you know, knocking each other down and being so negative, and knock off all the bullying crap, knock off all the racism, knock all that stuff off, man. Let's grow. That's all I got to say.
Good stuff, man. That's all I got, bro. The takeover from Scott-Free Devore is over. I turn it back over to you, Jimmylee.
All right. So we like to finish off our podcast with some quotes. And I got a quote from Jim Rohn and Henry Ford. The one by Jim Rohn is, if you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If you don't, you'll find an excuse. And the second one by Henry Ford, obstacles are those things you see when you take your eyes off the goal. So 2 bombshells of quotes. And that's it, man. In this episode, we discussed me, Jimmylee, my thoughts with an interview-like episode featuring Scott-Free Devore as the interviewer, a bombardment of random critical thinking questions, an inside look on my overall thought process, and tips for everyone to become the best versions of themselves. We wrapped the episode up with quotes from Jim Rohn and Henry Ford. All right, so I just wanted to give a shout out to Scott and Gabe for doing this. I know this was like we stacked up episodes. Gabe's always here. He's our IT guy. He's you know, the what do you call that? What do you call the person that's always there?
Your wingman?
Yeah. Well, anyway, Gabe, thank you for being my wingman.
No problem.
You're the man. He does so much work that does not get seen. He's a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, but none of this would be possible without Gabe and the partnership we have together. Scott, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for our bond that we have. I appreciate you. I love you. I want to thank you for doing this interview-like podcast. It was fun. And yeah, man, that's it. Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@JimmyleeVelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.